Interview, Part 9. What can you suggest to our listeners who want to make a great silent accord?
Well, perhaps we go back to the part where we were talking about perfection, where we said it doesn't exist. Since you brought up the silent accord idea, Robin, why not start out by strengthening the fact that perfection is a self-imposed, a self-created standard, and it's imposed by something inside of you. When people talk about an inner critic, it's usually very focused on the negative. That critic calls you out about how you should have done something or what you did not do right. That critic is acting as an obstacle, blocking you from seeing what you were meant to learn from your actions. Can you see how this applies to someone's silent accord?
I think it can be used in a couple of ways. One is to make a silent accord accepting that since perfection is an illusion, whatever we achieve will not measure based on an imaginary standard. We can instead define our own standard, one that keeps us going, seeking the next step and then the next. It's like not letting a word limit how we see things as either or. The other is a result of completely rejecting the existence of perfection, which opens one up to a sense of extreme curiosity and adventure. It can give you the power of resiliency and the energy to continue onward. Then we get to have more choices.
Those are good, really good. If I can add some more to yours so the listeners can have more ideas. While you were talking, I had the sense about the energy of resiliency and curiosity to move forward continuously, like water flowing downstream no matter what gets in the way. Water will go through and around obstacles with a natural flexibility. Remember, the term "the situation is very fluid" means it's always subject to change in an unpredictable way, but always moving. I'd say this term is so close to reality, folks should use it more often.
There it is, folks. 3 ideas that can help guide your silent accord. 1. Perfection is an illusion. Define a realistic standard to measure your actions. 2. Adopt an attitude of extreme curiosity. And 3. Think and act like water. Reality is always fluid. Come to think of it, there may be some other things we can add to the attitude part because folks are realizing that attitude has a lot to do with how we feel and how we react. For example, considering perfection is an illusion, we can make the choice of how we react to something when it does not go the way we want it to. It really didn't have to go our way in the first place. It was simply wanting, and wanting doesn't guarantee anything. Or also by thinking it would have been better if it had resulted like this or like that, but realizing the outcome is inconvenient, but not awful or fatal. Sometimes when I'm disappointed with a result, I replace the words terrible and unbearable with inconvenient and uncomfortable or unfortunate and unpleasant, which are probably closer to reality since the situation was not life-threatening or terminal. When I do that, it helps me refocus to keep on moving. As you suggest, staying fluid. I guess thinking this way opens up a space where perfection cannot exist. The words sound a bit less end of the world, there's nothing I can do, which helps me realize in the moment I can just do my very best, but not the impossible. Choosing such alternate words has helped me realize that my desires are random, just self-invented. So if I demand that things go my way, it's kind of silly. What do you think about these ideas?
They can be very helpful and very powerful. Notice again how words drive thinking. Attitude shifts from end-of-the-world thinking to bearable enough, allowing one to move forward. Remove power from the words that close your space. Give power to the words that open your space. What I think makes good sense is for people to hit the pause button and reflect a bit instead of running like crazy. You can actually pause the "it is so" or "has to be like that," which will open a space for other ideas and for learning. And one more thing. Once the attitude changes to learning, then your comment about curiosity is very important, Robin. because the openness to anything is possible helps fuel the cycle of learning, which is ultimately a key ingredient for success.
Very good advice indeed. Seems like we're covering a lot of ideas for our listeners to build their own silent accord that can help propel them forward. A couple of things that resonated with me is that the fluidity you mentioned resembles a process, one that never stops and is continual, fueled by the attitude of learning and curiosity. So it's not a static, one-time issue. It's all very dynamic. And also, the anything is possible attitude helped me visualize a different picture of how success can be reimagined. Often we see success as stairs or a ladder moving in a straight line from the bottom to the top, where the top is success. But I think your idea is more about moving one step ahead, experimenting, and allowing each step to go in any direction, and then learn about the outcome and why it ended up in that direction. Then we can use what we learned to go to the next step, and so on. The direction can be zigzag, diagonal, or squiggly. Straight up sounds a lot like an ill-formed expectation, and we already talked about that.
Let's say, Robin, that instead of just a process and a goal, the silent accord might be about sustaining a condition, a way of thinking or mindset from where the journey to success flows without end. That state of mind or condition is what can help connect the dots. It considers that change is constant. Things are continuously being created and recreated. Therefore, experimentation is the way to move forward by learning with each trial.
The road to success is always under construction. Chinese proverb. Interview Part 10. Brilliant. We have to drink water every day. That should help remind us of the fluid state of mind. Achieving that state in itself can be a great measure of success. Thank you for that. What would you say to our listeners about success? What ideas can you share that can help them add to their silent accord?
Well, it's good that you mentioned earlier that success is not the opposite of my name, mainly because it's not really helpful to think in opposites because they reduce the choices you have. People think if A is happening, the B can't possibly exist, or if A wins, then B must lose. Even though you have made these artificial divisions of A and B in your mind, those imaginary thoughts then create the lens by which you see and judge things. So, it's important to open a space to multiple ways things can result that you can identify and call success.
I guess what you're saying is that success can have many faces, and we should then move past any preconceived notions limited by either or, and instead choose a definition that leaves the door open to a range of possibilities. I'm thinking that unfortunately, in the social media today, there is an extreme bias towards success equaling having a lot of money. But I also see where people talk about other priorities like health, family, friends, and community. How do you see that?
Sure, Robin. And each person will have to decide what is important to them, what they really value, and build their own priority list to define what to include in their unique silent accord. For example, someone can put health over money because without health, it can be tough to have the energy to do what it takes to earn more money or run a business. By the way, over time, your list of values can change, just like everything else is in constant change. So today, you might write family at the top of your priority list, and later that can change to health or community. What is important is that you choose the list and use it as your guiding principle that you choose to make your foundation. That's what will keep you moving forward.
I just Googled a couple of definitions of success, and I'm thinking those were also written by a bunch of grumpy old men, and we can change the meaning to what is useful for each of us. For example, one online definition is the fact of getting or achieving wealth, respect, or fame. But now, after your comments, I think I'd want to think this one through. These sound like there's a pre-established measure of what is being valued by others, but not be valued by you. The other problem is that it is limited to getting and achieving wealth or respect or fame. But these are, I think, very subjective. Is fame about getting recognized when you're walking on the street? How would you measure respect? Someone kissing your ring? Or how much money do you have to consider you achieved wealth? I've had millionaires on my show who've admitted they're not there yet, and they're still looking for success.
That's right, Robin. And I can't tell you how many seemingly wealthy people are so afraid of my name. Some of them fear losing it all. Some of them fear having criminals look for opportunities to rob them or the government coming after them. They also associate my name with fear of losing some of their huge wealth. Others might see them as successful, but under certain circumstances, they might not be. If they are stressed out and not healthy and have to be under a doctor's constant supervision, or if they have family feuds about money, or when love in their lives is only about their bank account. I think instead it's about a process, an individual mindset and set of values and principles that can help support a definition of success to help define their own personal and unique silent accord.
Okay, this is great. If it is a mindset and the focus is not on a specific predefined outcome, then I'm thinking that what has been helpful for me are a few things that get me moving forward and that I can relate to as my personal way of seeing success. For example, I think I'm an optimist when I set myself to think that learning is one of the most important things for me. Then no matter the outcome, I know I will learn something from it, and that will lead me into the next step. So in a sense, I'm thinking step by step, but also reaching milestones that I can use to find out what to not continue doing and think of alternative next steps. That is one way I think to help define success as a process that creates the opportunity to learn and improve at each milestone.
Yes, that is a good one. I think your optimism also helps solidify the idea of harnessing faith that things will resolve themselves, that obstacles and challenges are there not to be badasses. Instead, think how they are there to create the opportunity to learn. When you don't see obstacles as threats, the mindset will keep you curious, thirsty to continue learning. And then, the more you learn and realize the importance of learning will give you even more confidence to continue to the next milestone. I know that I sound like a broken record, but it's better to define success as a target condition or mindset, a way of thinking, not a specific goal or final outcome.
I agree. That is a better way. I guess it also implies that obstacles that appear along the way, the same ones that cause straight lines to go squiggly, can also be bringing with them some gifts. Opportunities can come from any direction. We just have to have a mindset to be aware so we can see them. I mean, what if what you're trying to avoid might actually be bringing you success? But I think it also helps silence that inner critic, the voice in your head that attacks you when something comes out seemingly wrong. It's only judging you against a static, one-time target, but not a moving process that is deliberately designed to make you succeed. It's that self-talk that we should get rid of once and for all.
Well, not so fast. That self-talk is there for a reason, Robin, to somehow protect you from hurting yourself. It's just that the voice might have been trained for either-or situations, A or B, right or wrong. Perhaps you can one day retrain that parrot, but getting rid of it is not a good idea. It might transform into a shadow which you won't see but can still influence you. Here is a different way you may consider. Let the inner critic challenge the outcomes of your experiments. In other words, it's judging the outcome and not you. Then the conversation is no longer a personal one. Why not just call it shelf talk? Put it on a shelf. It will be there when you're ready to explore the way forward.
Shelf talk. That's funny. I'll do it. We shape our buildings, and afterwards, our buildings shape us. Sir Winston Churchill.